Hi, and welcome to another episode of Piano TV. So today we're going to learn a piece called Alla Turca, which is from one of Mozart's most famous piano sonatas, and you've almost definitely heard it at some point. So before we play it, we're going to do a little bit of backstory, and then after we play it, we're going to kind of pick it apart little by little to figure out exactly the hardest parts and what needs to be worked on, and little tips and tricks and stuff. So let's get started. So backstory time. Alla Turca is from Mozart's 11th piano sonata in A major, which has 3 movements, and the Alla Turca movement is the 3rd movement. It's also called Turkish March because it's in the 2/4 time signature common to marches, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. When this piece was composed in and around 1783, so the 18th century, Turkish music in Austria was really fashionable at the time for all kinds of political reasons that we won't get into here. But what you can just understand from that is that Mozart was really influenced by contemporary music styles at the time. So he tried to incorporate what was fashionable and hip hop happening into his own compositions. So let's take a look at this music. So first of all, we're going to look at the basics. So the time signature is 2/4, which is our march beat. And that means we're only counting up to 2 in every bar. And another thing here, kind of in this general area, is the key signature. Now, since you don't see any sharps or flats, this is telling us one of two things. It's either based on the C major scale or the A minor scale. So by looking at the first few notes is going to be very revealing to this puzzle here. So our first note's an A. Our next 2 notes are C and E. So if you remember anything about chords from previous videos, A, C, and E is actually an A minor chord. And this song is in A minor. Then we just have some Italian here. So we have allegretto, which is kind of like saying fast, but like pretty fast, like fast-ish. It's not as fast as allegro, but you know, you're not going to be slumping around playing this one either. So there's your technical dictionary definition. So the left hand throughout this song is maintaining a fairly steady 8th note rhythm. So let's start the counting situation there. So remember when we're counting 8th notes, we count 1 and 2 and. So this is going to be 1 and 2 and we know that's right because our time signature is 2/4, and that means we're only counting up to 2 in every bar, which is perfect. So it's the right hand where things get interesting and we get those 16th notes. So if you're unsure about how to play or count 16th notes, definitely watch the previous video, which I'll link to on the screen, and you can go check that out just to make a little more sense of this. But what we're going to do is we got these kind of notes, these 16th notes floating in outer space. They don't have any counts going on underneath them, and I like to rectify that because it's really weird to play notes that you're not counting. So we're going to fill it in with E and an A. So that's like 1 and 2 E and A. What I like to do for consistency is also fill in the other gaps too. Ooh, what am I doing here? Is also fill in the other 2 gaps. I don't know why I just erased everything. Just like that. Because it's sometimes hard to count 1 and 2 E and because what can happen sometimes is you'll go 1 and 2 E and keep it all the same. But if you're going 1 E and 2 E and it's a lot more difficult to make mistakes. So on the keyboard, here's our 8th note pattern in the left hand. 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and our 16th note pattern is going to be twice as fast, starting on beat 2 like this. 2 E and a 1, 2 E and a 1. All right. So to put it hands together, what you need to do is start really slow, like maybe even slower, and watch the sheet music super carefully just to make sure you're matching all the notes up properly. So yeah, pay attention to that vertical stacking. And I also find it really helpful, even if it's difficult, to count out loud, just like 2 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a, just so you can kind of visualize and hear how everything's syncing up. Another thing to notice about the left hand is the pattern of slurs and staccato. So notice that the first beat is always slurred into the second. followed by 3 staccatos. So this pattern is constant throughout the whole song, and it's really crucial to driving the rhythm. So listen to the difference if I were to play everything staccato. I mean, it doesn't sound bad, but listen to it with the slur, and it just drives it. It really gives you a stronger sense of where that first beat is, and it's not too difficult once you get the hang of it. And I do recommend practicing it separately like this until that slur staccato movement is really natural. But the challenge comes when you have to play staccatos in the left hand and a slur in the right hand, because you've got this right hand part here that's all slur. It's all a slur with just like a little eighth rest in between. So the best way, again, I always say this, is the best way to do it is to just play it really, really, really slow, paying attention to the technique in both hands so that one remains staccato and the other remains smooth. So you can hear that. And what sometimes happens is both hands become staccato if you're not careful, like this. Where they're both kind of like copying each other. So be mindful of both hands and make sure they're not flubbing anything when they're going at the same time. So if they are flubbing a lot, slow it down even further. Even if you're going like really, really, really slow, keep slowing it down until you can really make sure your technique is right in each hand. The last kind of weird thing to point out in this song is the finger patterns on the right hand. So our main melody is in groups of 16th notes that require a thumb under motion. So notice I'm starting on finger 4. 4, 3, 2, thumb, 3. So I'm doing like this little thumb under thing. Now, believe it or not, this action actually makes the piece easier to play instead of harder. Because without doing the thumb cross, you finish the pattern on your pinky, and then you have to kind of like leap to that next note, which makes it more likely that you're gonna kind of bump something or hit a wrong note. But the thumb under motion, 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, perfectly sets up your finger 4 to begin the next set. 4, 3, 2, thumb, 3, and then exactly setting you up again for the next set. 4, 3, 2, thumb. Oh, 4, 3, 2, thumb. And on and on and on. So that thumb under motion is gonna help you. So if you're not looking at your hands, you can still, look at the sheet and execute the notes properly and confidently without having to make larger leaps of the hand where you're more likely to flub. I don't know why I'm using the word flub today. Flub is the word of the day. And that concludes our piano lesson for today. Thank you for watching. And as always, the sheet music is linked below, so you can check that out. And you can spend some time practicing it and get really, really good at it, because that's what it's all about. And if you want to keep up to date, you can visit pianotv.net and also subscribe to this channel and send it a like if you're a Mozart fan. Toodaloo! Get a little practice the roo. I don't know where I'm going with that. I'm just going to try again.